The thing that binds people is the independence and the ability to share incredibly good things, like not only our operating rooms and our spa, but also we have our own in-house hotel. It's an outpatient nursing facility.
Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now today I have a very special guest. It is Dr. Rod Rohrich, a world-renowned board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon based in Dallas, Texas. Now, Dr. Rohrich is a founding partner of the prestigious Dallas Plastic Surgery Institute. He's a clinical professor of plastic surgery at Baylor College of Medicine, and he is widely considered one of the most influential figures in aesthetic surgery today. Dr. Rohrich has served as president of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. He's chaired the Department of Plastic Surgery at UT Southwestern and is a emeritus journal editor of the Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Journal. He's actually widely considered one of the most influential figures in aesthetic surgery today. Now, he's also known globally for his surgical innovations, exceptional results, and for training the next generation of top surgeons. Dr. Rohrich also believes in giving back and has a foundation called AIRS, which stands for the Alliance in Reconstructive Surgery, that helps women of need who can't afford breast reconstruction. So Dr. Rohrich, thank you so much for being on Beauty and the Biz. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor to have your time. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for that wonderful introduction. My mother would have loved to hear that.
Okay, well, you can send her the video. All right, so let's talk about the business side. And typically what the audience likes to know is, how did you get from, I don't know, fellowship or even residency to where you are now? Can you give us a quick journey of that?
You bet. It's hard work, focus, and passion. That's the byline. So if you want to just entertain yourself with just this part, that's it. But it's really hard work. I grew up on a ranch in North Dakota. I didn't speak English till I was 6 years old, and I wanted to do something different. I loved science. I loved using my hands. I loved art, and that's how I eventually ended up in plastic surgery. But it's a journey. You know, life is a journey, and it's filled with peaks and valleys, and you know, it's always about the journey, never about the destination. And so I went to medical school at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. That's why I began to love Texas. Then I went to Michigan to do plastic surgery and general surgery, and Oxford to do craniofacial and pediatric, then Harvard to do hand and micro. And then my journey began in Dallas about almost 30 years ago, where I came as an assistant professor in plastic surgery, and then eventually ended up being chairman after 4 years, and then developed a department from the faculty of one, myself, to over 30 and $30 million in revenue. And it was hard work, focus, a lot of support. And the biggest message I think I have for people is that, you know, goal setting is important in life. And being goal setting and purpose driven really sets you apart from everybody else. And it's one thing to talk about it and to dream about it, but then you got to do it. And I think that's the most important message I think I have for plastic surgeons, especially those starting, is that, you know, they want to come out and they want to be Instagram famous. They want to be world famous. But, you know, you can be famous on your website or Instagram, but you really become truly excellent at what you do. It requires a lot of hard work, a lot of focus, a lot of training, and a lot of just learning from others. And I think the biggest thing is you have to learn from the best to be the best. And number two, you have to surround yourself with people that are as good or better than you. And if you're in a room where people are not as smart as you need to get out of the room, because you are not in the right room. And the other thing is, you have to make sure that when you really want to be the best in class and where you want to be, you have to be able to train with the best and learn from the best, and then go on the shoulders of those who went before you. And I was very lucky to have all those things at Michigan, at Harvard. I had great mentors, and now I'm at a phase of my life where I want to give back. I want to give back to the people that helped me, my specialty that helped me, my family. And, you know, in the end, it's all about passion, focus, purpose, and giving back. And, you have to do that, whether you're starting or ending your career.
Well said. So where you're at today, how much of your practice is recon versus cosmetic?
It's 100% cosmetic, Catherine. I have had three different lives in plastic surgery because I had academic life for 25 years, and I did part-time private practice and part-time university. Very unusual. But I started doing out hand and microsurgery, craniofacial surgery, breast surgery, and then I evolved in doing nasal reconstruction and rhinoplasty and cosmetic surgery. And basically today I do rhinoplasties and facelifts. But it's a journey. People can't come out and be an expert immediately. I think they think they can, but you really can't, because the best experience I had in my life and the training I got was all the things. I was a hand micro, I was a craniofacial surgeon. All those things helped me become an excellent plastic surgeon and an excellent cosmetic surgeon, because it's that cumulative experience. It's really the three E's. It's experience, expertise, and excellence in getting, consistent results. And once you attain those three, then you're in a nirvana of expertise and excellence. And that takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah. On the other hand, when you're marketing in today's world, you cannot be the jack of all trades as your message. You have to figure out that balance between, I'm a plastic surgeon who is very good at all the body parts, but then how do you go out into the market with that message? It's gotten complicated.
Well, you're right. I mean, I think in this day and age, people focus and want to be experts right away. And I think that's one pathway to do it. And I think that's a pathway that a lot of people, try and take. I think it's got some hills and valleys. I mean, if you come out and want to be a rhinoplasty expert or a facialist expert, you better have had some training and expertise and fellowship training, because I'll tell you, the average plastic surgery training program is so deficient in cosmetic surgery. I mean, most people couldn't come out and do a competent facelift or rhinoplasty. I mean, I hate to say that. Having run a program, obviously UT Southwestern is excellent, and about a handful of others, but most other training programs are deficient in all of these areas. That's why you need to do a fellowship. If you want to be an expert in cosmetic surgery, you should do a fellowship. And because, on Instagram, you can only BS somebody so long. And then guess what? Then you got to operate on them. And then guess who's your biggest advertisement? Your patients. Your patients, no matter how big of an audience you have, it's your patients that will send you other patients, and also that will echo and say, hey, that person really knows what they're doing. Look at my nose, look at my results. And I think today it's all about social media. Websites are landing pages, but social media permeates and helps build you or destroy you. So you've got to be able to articulate who and what you are to the patients, and in the social media arena. And the best way to do that is have your patients talk about how good you are.
Back to fellowship, I can't imagine not going through some kind of fellowship program. In today's world, you've got to model others that you admire. How important do you think a fellowship with how do you match the right fellowship with the right surgeon?
We have a cosmetic fellowship. I think it's critical, Catherine, to do a fellowship. If you want to be an expert in like rhinoplasty or facelift, you find a fellowship training program that has your niche. Like our fellowship at DPSI, we're unique because we have experts in rhinoplasty and facelifts, and then of course body contouring. So we have it all. But I think when you come out, you can be an expert in probably two things,
right?
In your career, and so beyond that, it becomes very diffuse. So, and also the message has to be very simple. I'm an expert in, and these are the reasons for it. And then the patients will explain to you exactly why and who. And social media is an amazing medium because it will attract patients that like not only your style, your results, but who and what you are. So many of my patients come to see me because they say, hey, I feel like I know you already because I've watched you on Instagram. And that's why you have to tailor your Instagram specifically towards what you want to do. faces, noses, and you have to present honest results. That's why I do videos on all my patients, because I want to show them when the cast comes off, when I see them in a week, 2 weeks, so they can see the evolution of care. Because patients don't come up and look like, Kim Kardashian. I know she hasn't had any surgery. Hashtag maybe not. But basically, you want them to see the real practice of who you are. So when they come see you, they instantly know who you are. I mean, my patients, they know who I am way before they come to see me. And I think that's the positive part of social media. But you have to do it yourself. You have to be real. You have to be honest. You have to be yourself. And because you can't hire somebody. I know people will say, well, I'm just going to hire. I don't have a social media expert. I do all my social media. Except for my podcast, I have somebody that helps me, but I do all my own social media.
You do your own video editing?
I do all that except for my podcasts are done by a group, but all the other stuff's done by myself and the YouTubes and stuff. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in the marketing section, because that's a big job. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I like it, and I'll do it, at 5 a.m, and then that's it.
Back to business. You have a very unusual business model for your practice. Can you explain how you run that? And if you look on your website, it looks like you're in this huge building, and you own like the host's one section of it, and you have a killer in-house or outside signage. Like you can see that from 10 miles away. Can you just explain?
It's all about, marketing, and that was part of our lease agreement. And obviously, I think the biggest thing you should do, now we don't own our building, but we should have when we first did it in 2008. But I think if you can own your own business, own your own building, and then you can have the marketing you want. I mean, obviously that's part of our lease agreement. And we have a 15-year lease agreement. And
good job on that. I don't know anybody who gets that kind of signage approved.
Yeah. Well, we have over 40,000 square feet. So of course, it's a lot of revenue for the owners, but it's way beyond that, because we're a group of 12 independent PAs in an LLC called Dallas Plastic Surgery Institute, for simple terms. And so we're all our own practices, but we co-own our operating rooms, which is the Dallas Day Surgery Center, which is so critical. If you want to be a successful plastic surgeon, you have to have an outpatient surgery center that's accredited. Par excellence. That's the cornerstone of what we do. Then we have a spa center, the Epicenter, and then we all do other things that are individually an expertise. Like I do a lot of clinical research. I do 3 to 5 FDA trials concurrently. I have my own team that does that. So, and then I run our operating rooms, and I do all that. But plastic surgeons as a team is a rare event, because it's like herding cats, because everybody has different opinions. But if you have your own PAs, that means we're responsible for is our common overhead of our clinical staff that serves everyone, the reception people, our OR staff, and things like that. So it's a model that works for us. And I think it works for plastic surgeons that are ferociously independent, and they want to do things their own way. But, you can, if like I had one of my senior partners that would take off 3 months to go hunting in Texas, that's fine, as long as he paid his overhead. We don't care. I don't care if you go to, Africa for 3 months, but you have to pay your common overhead. So that's the thing that binds people, is the independence and the ability to share incredibly good things, like not only our operating rooms and our spa, but also we have our own in-house hotel. It's an outpatient nursing facility. And since most of my practice comes from around the U.S. and around the world, so they stay for a few days to a few weeks. So it's very important to do that, because it empowers you to tell your patients not only about care, but safety and follow-up. So, it's all encompassing. And since Dallas is a global hub, it makes it easy.
Are these surgeons partners with equity?
Yes.
Yeah?
So it takes 2 to 3 years to become a partner, but it's all part of their buy-in. They buy into the practice, they buy into the different entities, Dallas Day, the Epicenter, and things like that. But it's part of the buy-in for that. And it's very transparent and open. And we make it fairly easy to understand, because if you have a contract that is more than a page and you can't understand it, you need a different lawyer or you need a different contract. And if you go because, contracts with partners, I have so many of my fellows that I teach them this every time and every year, is that, if you go into a contract, it's like a marriage. And so you can't just kind of do it over 2 hours of greeting. You gotta focus on restrictive covenant. What's the buy-in? What are the entities? Show me your books for the past 3 to 5 years. I want to see what the expenses are. And by the way, what's my salary going to be? And what's my ability to do my bonus collection in the first year? It should at least be 50% after a certain, level of base salary, and then the ability to grow, because you want to incentivize your partners to grow and to be very, very good. And I always try and pick people that are as good or better than me. You don't want to pick some slouch. You want people that are go-getters, that want to, succeed and really go out and be the best they can be. That's what you want.
And then do you all share those common areas like HR, or marketing,
Yes.
accounting?
Well, we all do our own marketing, but we share our receptions, our financial oversight, and our HR. Yes, we do all that for all the entities. And then that's part of our overhead that we pay every month. And then everything's transparent. Everybody sees all the expenses. They see everybody's income. And I learned this when I ran UT Southwestern, and had over 30 faculty. The most important thing is you have to show the faculty everything. You've got to show your partners everything. You can't hide anything, because then it's a big mystery. But the moment you open the books and show everybody everything, it's transparent, it's truthful, it's honest. And that way, when somebody says, "Oh, I want to make $2 million," and I say, "Well, that's fine, but you're leaving at 3:00 in the afternoon and you're all gone every weekend. Hello. And here's the other guy who is making a lot of money. He's working like a dog." So, it's that kind of thing. You got to, the rubber meets the road. And the other thing in practice is you have to get the right people on the right track and focus on what your mission is. So a practice leader has got to be the focus. And that leader has got to have the vision to say, this is what we're doing. And all of the staff have to share that vision. If they don't share that vision, it's out. So all my staff has been with me for years, from 7 to 30 years, because we all share the same common vision. And that vision is success, excellence, delivering great patient care and outcomes. And
is that vision for every surgeon in the practice? Is that your vision, or does everyone have its own separate vision?
That's my vision. Gotcha. And, everybody's practice is different. I got 12 partners, remember, plastic surgeons are like, it's like herding cats. You can't, I don't tell anybody else what to do. I just know what I do and what my staff does. My staff represents me from the time they check in to the time they leave, and they represent who and what I am, and they know exactly what I do and how I like it done.
But how do you make decisions with surgeons? I've noticed the minute there is more than one surgeon involved, we can't get a decision made. So for example, I was in a practice where we were trying to up level, and the med spa was a disaster and it needed a renovation. And then 2 of them wanted to do it, 2 of them didn't want to do it. I mean, how do you handle things like that?
Well, you have to have organization. Like we have an executive committee of 4 people that actually meets monthly and talks about, practice challenges. And each of us runs a couple of entities. Like I help coordinate the operating rooms and the outpatient surgery center. And then one of our other partners does, the epicenter, and then another one runs it. And so we all focus on, and then we do daily challenges and daily problems. I mean, having run a huge university practice and having been on the executive committee of the university at UT Southwestern for, almost 2 decades, this is actually easy. But, it's always about the people. And it's the people have to get along. If they don't get along, they have to go along. And so people have to talk to each other, not about each other, but talk to each other. So that's very important. If they talk about each other, they're not part of my group.
And so does all the staff of the various doctors, do they all get along?
Well, no, nobody. I mean, we all are very respectful. Our partners all get along, but does every staff get along? Of course. Today I had to have a little intervention with a couple of my staff in the operating room. But I mean, no, of course, that's called human nature. But the key is you have to reach common ground, and common ground means that you have to communicate well with others. You can't say he said, she said. You got to say, okay, that's the issue. But remember one thing. And I've learned this so many times in academics, is that there are two sides to the story. And many times there are more than two sides. And guess what the truth is? It's in the middle. It's never to the one side or the other. They'll say, oh my God, X did what? And then you talk about to the other person, you go, oh, wow. The truth is always in the middle, or sometimes between that. And when you make the right decision, nobody's truly 100% happy. Then you've made the right decision. But the key is you got to keep moving forward and upward, and being positive and honest and communicate. And when you do that, you're fine. I mean, when I was editor of the journal, I took the journal from an impact factor of 2.2 to 5, over 5. And yeah, I rejected a lot of papers, and a lot of people would get upset at me, and they'd confront me at meetings and in outside countries. And really, some of them were kind of scary almost. But I'd say, listen, I know you got your article rejected, but was it fairly done? Was it done in a fair way? And they always said, yes, it was. I said, well, all I can say is that, you have to be fair, you have to be balanced, and you can never be right all the time. You can't. None of us are God. We want to do the best thing. In the end, we want to do the best thing for our patients, our families, and our practice. And that's it. At the end of the day, that's what you want.
Well, you've been around a long time, and you've seen all the various business models. And I get asked quite often, should I go? Is it still viable to go on your own? Or do I need to join somebody else? Or do I need a business model like the one you have? What would you recommend to somebody who's thinking about making a move?
I would recommend that if you're a free spirit and an independent person, to do it independent individual practice. Because many times that's what you end up doing after joining a bad practice and then getting thrown out, or you get out. It's kind of like a bad marriage. I always tell people, when you enter a marriage or a partnership, it never gets better. It'll only get worse. So unless it's really, really good, don't do it. So personally, if they can't find somebody, go start your own private practice. Yeah. Sure, you're going to struggle. You're going to spend $500,000 or $1 million, but you know what? You're going to spend that and more fighting legal fees when you get out of some deadbeat partner that didn't fulfill his contract, Right. And I talked to one of my former fellows the other day, and it's the same story, the wife ran the practice, wasn't going to leave. He wasn't going to leave at the time he said he was. The restrictive covenant was changed. I didn't get my salary. I didn't get my bonus. But all those things need to be fixed before. You need to have a contract business lawyer that does that before, because it's just like a marriage. You can't talk about that stuff when it's over. It's just like getting an exam result and say, oh, I wanted an A and you got a C. It's over. So you've got to do all that before. You've got to get a great business lawyer that talks about the restrictive covenant, talks about your buy-in, your buyout. What do I get? What's my incentive plan? Otherwise, it's a crapshoot. And then it's doomed to failure from the beginning. And so I review contracts all the time for some of my fellows. And if they don't have those, 7 things, it's going to fail. Because, it's kind of like what Reagan said with the Russians. We trust, but we have to verify.
The smartest practices know a big part of their practice growth comes from retention, referrals, and repeat treatments, not just from new internet stranger leads. That's why I created the KISS Loyalty Club, a done-for-you system that keeps your patients returning, referring, reviewing, sharing you on social media, and completing surgery. Discover how KISS can grow your own practice revenues by visiting kissloyalty.com today. What would you say is the biggest challenge in today's world running a practice, a plastic surgery practice?
I think it's getting the right people to do the right thing at the right time. Finding great people is so important and so challenging. That's what I mean. Like I said, most of my staff have been with me for a long, long time because getting the right person and keeping them is so critical versus hiring a bunch of lackeys. So,
Well, how are you doing that when others have huge turnover? How do you explain?
Well, I'm not, believe me, I have hired and fired a lot of people in my career, both at UT Southwestern and in DPSI. I mean, when I came over from DPSI to run the outpatient surgery center, it was a shambles. And, I basically had to fire most of the people. But, you find good people that want to do the right thing and that are really the common ground has to be in medicine. But do they want to deliver great patient care? Are they about safety first? Because if it's about the money, you are doomed to failure. It's got to be about patient safety and excellence. And if you focus on that, all the other stuff comes. It's not a problem. It'll all come. But if you say, I want to make X, that's BS. You got to say, I want to be the best you can be. I want to deliver the best care for my patients. Then you will succeed. It takes time. It's not an Instagram famous thing. Nothing is. It's called pain, purpose, passion.
For sure. What about, I don't know how much longer you're planning on working, but I do like to talk about the growth plan or your exit strategy, or where does PE fit into your world, any of that?
Well, I mean, I plan to work another 5 years or so, but I'm doing a lot more non-invasive, but I operate every day of the week. I travel around the world. I'm lecturing around the world. I'm operating. I'm going to Egypt in a few weeks. I lecture and operate around the world because I love what I do. I do what I love, and I do it with the people I like. And I think that's the most important thing. I don't operate on anybody that I don't like, that I don't think I can help. So I think that's very important. And it's just like the people in my life. I don't, if I get a bad feeling from a patient that I'm talking to on FaceTime, or I just say, I'm not good enough to do your surgery. I just, life's too short. This is not a dress rehearsal.
But you know what? That's a really good point, because people say, what am I supposed to say? And then they say, well, I doubled the price. And they said, okay.
Don't do that.
Don't bother. It's not a good fit. It's just, what's the easiest thing to say to get out of that?
This is what you must say. I am not good enough to give you the result that you want. And I think you need to remember that, okay? Because none of us are God. I say, you're like your nose. It's going to be straighter, better. Will it be perfect? No, I've done over 6,000 rhinoplasties. I've never done a perfect one. I never leave the operating room until it looks as perfect as it can be. Same with the facelift. But is it ever going to be perfect? Is it ever going to be, all of the crazy thing about social media is that 80% of the images that are on social media are really not true. And they're morphed, or they're overdone. And believe me, I see them all the time. I see the patients all the time, of these quote unquote famous people. And, we all live in glass houses, Catherine. Just remember, like I'm a world leader and educator in both rhinoplasty and facelift, and I see everybody's patients and they see mine. And guess what? We're all human.
Yeah.
I just saw one today from a famous, deep plane facelift surgeon, and guess what? Was not the greatest result. But you know what? That's okay. We all live in, we all live in glass houses. Just remember that. Nobody's perfect.
But it's not okay when you are talking about branding, because you and I both know about the branding thing, and you're charging $100K for facelifts, and you're going after the whales, as they say. You better be on point. Those people, their expectations, you're playing a different game at that point. They have expectations. And
I know.
Wow.
And I know, and I see them, and I think,
they do think you're God, though. Like you better, like, how everyone's talking about her, Kardashian's mom. What's her name?
Kris Jenner.
Yeah.
She's great. And of course,
it's a killer facelift, but it was still, I swear, it was still the honeymoon phase where it was still had lightly swelling.
Oh yeah,
she looked fabulous. She had filters on. Come on.
Of course, and I know Steve Levine, since she mentioned him, and he's a great guy. He's, after he finished his training, he came to spend a week with me, and he's a fantastic surgeon. And he was trained by Dr. Dan Baker, who's a rock star plastic surgeon who just, I think, has slowed down. But of course, and that wasn't a deep plane facelift either, by the way. It was just
no kidding.
No, of course it wasn't. It was a mastectomy or application, but it was a third facelift. But it's a great result. But you know what? Of course, it's makeup and all of that stuff. And believe me, the Kardashians are the masters of all of that.
God, they're good.
Because they've all had the six pack, big lips, big, whatever. But, they're the masters of disguising who and what they are. So, but of course, the key is, to each his own. And I personally, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to live with who and what you are.
Right.
Okay. So don't do crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Be safe. Be honest, and hang out with people that are as good or better than you, and surround yourself with those people. That's what I say. And if you do that, you will do incredibly well.
You are such a good instructor and trainer, and I know you've got your own conferences now. Is that something you enjoy doing and you want to do more of that?
Well, of course I do. The Dallas Rhino and Plastic Surgery meeting is in its 44th year, and it was started by my mentor, Dr. Jack Gunter. And, I do it because we've trained over 20,000 rhinoplasty and facelift surgeons over the past, well, I've only been with it for 30 years, but, I think giving back is in our DNA as Homo sapiens. And if we don't do that as plastic surgeons, we are not going to survive. And I think that's a problem we see with, the millennials and Gen X, is that people don't want to give back. You're only as good as what you give back to. And I think, I don't have to do any of this. I do it because I love what I do what I love. And it's really part of who and what I am. And I had such great mentors when I was training, at Michigan and Harvard and Baylor. And, and I just want to give back. And, I've had phenomenal residents and fellows. I have 10 people that are department chairs or division chairs of plastic surgery. And, I've trained thousands of people. And, but that's good. You want to leave this place a little better than when you came.
No, it's a great attitude, and it gives you purpose for sure. So let's talk about marketing. Talk about competition. Dallas is...
Sure.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. So how are you differentiating yourself in today's world?
Well, the crazy thing is, I think about 60-70% of the plastic surgeons in our community are people I trained.
Oh, no kidding.
I think it's fantastic. You know why? Mm-hmm. Because the plastic surgeons in Dallas, by and large, are excellent. Some of the best in the country. So I love that. I love being in a city where there's excellence versus some cities where the level of excellence doesn't come close to this. Yeah. But so in Dallas, of course, it's highly competitive, but I think it makes everybody better. The level of excellence goes up because when everybody's good, you want to be better, and that's a good thing. So I think honestly, you succeed by having happy patients, by doing the right thing, not doing crazy stuff, and then talking to your colleagues. If you have a problem, you want to talk to them or refer them a patient that's not unhappy with their result. And so it's a very congenial atmosphere we have here, unlike many cities. But it's very competitive, 100%. It's very, very competitive. But I think you need to be in a place where plastic surgery is excellent. So Dallas is very, very competitive, very, very high level of plastic surgery. But I think that's a good thing.
But what's separating the good surgeons from the exceptional surgeons?
Well,
what makes that difference?
I think those that can give consistently excellent results that are safe and don't do crazy stuff and aren't like grabbing the next thing that's happening and I'm going to do buccal fat on everybody or a lip lift on everybody. I think consistency and excellence in delivering great results is important. And being safe. I mean, I think that's really, people want that. They don't want to come out and look like, Michael Jackson or Mickey Rourke. They don't want that. They always come and say, I don't want, and the thing is, so that's why, sometimes on the coast, especially from California and sometimes from Florida, we have some of those crazy results, and just remember, we're in the face protection, not witness protection program in plastic surgery. So we should not make people into, animals like the foxtail lift and all these crazy things. And, it looks weird. And normal people don't want to look like somebody else. If they want to look like somebody else, I don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear that. You have your own podcast, and I have had mine for 5 years, and it's a weekly thing, and it's never ending, and it's not as easy as it looks. How are you? Are you enjoying yours? Is it been a nice marketing channel for you?
Well, I mean, I do it because I love what I do. I don't need to do it for marketing. I do it because I want to educate and give back. I mean, it's called Rohrich Knows Best, and basically, it's helping people to understand and be the best they can be. Because the day of the primary care doctor is over. Dr. Google is really the primary care doctor. Now it's ChatGPT because the primary care doctor is gone. So basically, you have to be your own educator. So I help them educate themselves about wellness, about fitness, about, plastic surgery, non-invasive things, and just tell them the truth about what's out there. Like, should you do threadless? Hell no. Should you do, fillers to the tear troughs? No. Should everybody have a buccal fat removal? No, but some people need to. So I kind of give them common sense approach to plastic surgery. So I do that. I do it twice a week. I mean, I film 6 or 8 at a time, and then I roll them out twice a week. And but they're really dialogues either that I have with people I respect, or somebody like you, or that I just talk about things like rhinoplasty or buccal fat, or what's new and hot and faceless, and what's not.
You don't need my help, but I don't know why don't you do patient stories and let some of the patients tell their story, because
I do.
patient stories.
I've had patients come on that have done facelifts on or rhinoplasties.
Nice.
And, it's a special patient. Not everybody does that. That's why, just like people say, oh, how do you have so many people on your Instagram? Well, guess what? I ask them. But probably 1 in 3 or 30% will do it. And then, of course, the younger patients say, I want to be on Instagram. I'm saying, okay, fine. So we do it. And then I get done with their surgery and say, well, isn't it on Instagram? I said, well, I just finished your surgery. Let me post it tonight. So it's very exciting stuff because people want that. And some people, but not everybody. Not everybody wants to be on Instagram. And so, I mean, I would say some of my best results, and of course, I operate on a lot of VIPs and personalities, and so they don't want to be on Instagram. But enough people do that really want to share their experience, and I think that's so important.
So let me just ask your process, because it looks like you're actually asking them even right at the pre-op, like they're just still you're following their journey. How are you making that happen? Have you started that discussion? Does your coordinator or somebody start it for you and then you pick it up later? What's your process for getting?
I start the discussion with the patient. I ask them.
What do you say?
I just say, hey, do you want to be on social media, or do you want me to help educate people? Some people just say, hey, I just want to be on your website, or they'll say and of course, if they're famous, I don't ask them, but basically I ask them, and you'd be surprised. I mean, I'm sometimes shocked by some people that are pretty well known. They'll say, listen, of course, I want people to know I'm having my rhinoplasty.
Well, you know what I really like about this? When you ask them, do you mind being on my Instagram, and in video, that will scare a lot of people. So they won't give you that, but then they'll give you the one down from that. But you can use me on your website. I just don't want to be, I just don't want to be in video. I love asking for a lot and getting a little or whatever I can get. I just never want to leave empty-handed. I think that's brilliant. Start with the Instagram video and then just work your way down.
Right. And then many times they'll say, hey, listen, and then sometimes they'll just say, I would just want to be on educational things, which, I do a lecture. And so then I'll just be on a video or on, photos at a educational meeting for plastic surgeons. So there's a lot of things, and most patients don't mind. But, if they do, it's fine. And then some patients come back. Like I just had a patient that did a preservation rhinoplasty on, and she said, hey, I want to be in your social media. And I said, okay.
Yeah, no, you're doing a great job there. I wanted to ask, how are you getting them to agree to that? Because here's what I've learned. It's usually a third, a third, a third. A third will say absolutely not. A third will say maybe I'll do some of it, and a third say absolutely whatever you need.
Right.
It sounds like
Right.
that. So it's a numbers game for sure, but it's also asking and the
Right.
service.
You got to break the ice. And people know, I mean, most people, they follow me on Instagram or they look at my YouTubes, and it's actually, they're very educational for them
Mhm.
to, because I actually show, I mean, I show the real surgery. And if you go look at my YouTube channels, I do less of that today, but then you show kind of the results and the
Mhm.
common questions that are asked for facelifts and rhinoplasty. So it's very educational because people want to know what to expect. And I think it's good.
But you have 1.6 million followers on Instagram. That's insane. You don't have a team helping you with this?
No, I don't. I should, I guess, but
Holy cow. How about influencers? There's been a lot of mixed bag on that. Do you work with them? Not? What do you think?
you know, I I don't barter and do surgery, and I don't do that. I mean, I have a lot of influencers that follow me, and I've operated on a lot of influencers, but and I think it's a double-edged sword. You got to be careful. I I don't do that. I treat them like I treat everybody else, which is hopefully great care and give them a great result. And many of them will say, wow, then they'll talk about it. But I
Mhm.
don't say, if you do this and then I'll, not charge you. I don't do that.
Yeah. One nice thing about Instagram, it allowed you to expand your audience, whereas Google keeps shrinking you and getting myopic with you have to be local. If that Googler lives in Dallas, then they will give them to you. If they live in Houston, then they'll get Houston plastic surgeons. So Instagram, has that been super helpful for you to reach others?
Yes. I mean, I've always had a global practice. And so it's never really, I mean, I've just been a different conduit, maybe because I speak around the world and stuff. But,
Mhm.
so it's, I don't know who follows me, except I know that I would say 56% are from the US and the rest are from Europe, India, Asia. But,
Yeah.
and I get, hundreds of DMs every day, and they automatically respond. They have to go to my email if they're going to become a patient or something. But
Mm.
but I do it primarily to educate people, and I think that's really helpful because people will say, you know what, I know the nose is going to be swollen because you just did the reveal on that young girl yesterday, and her
Mm.
nose was swollen. I said, yeah, that's true. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
You know,
All
and
right.
you
All right,
know,
we're going to wrap it up. Let's talk about mindset for a second or some little personal things. Give me a crazy patient or staff story that you care to share.
a crazy patient. It's something that's PG. I think patients do crazy stuff. I mean, they will sometimes, I've had patients that flew in and had their dogs come to the pre-op area and then also in the post-op area.
Oh my God.
And they were slept in the hotel with them and their facelifts. I mean,
Oh my God.
you
That sounds
know,
like me.
their
Yeah.
their service dog, their service post-op facelift dog, and um, you know,
That's crazy.
just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to go with the flow as long as it's not going to jeopardize patient care. I think it's okay. And I think, and most, like I said, I try and pick people that I like and that are going to be very, nice to my staff and me. And so, but we've all had crazy patients,
Right.
but
I wouldn't get in the middle of somebody and their dog. Yeah.
no,
We dog people are
the
crazy.
remarkable
Yeah.
thing was the dog was amazing. I came in the next morning and the dog was sleeping with her. And her husband was, I said, okay, that's
Yeah.
great. And he was a great dog. He was a German Shepherd, but it's
Oh
fine.
my God. That's
I
huge.
mean, it was a facelift patient, so it was fine.
Yeah. Holy cow. All right. Last question. Tell us something interesting we don't know about you.
Well, I think I've told you. I mean, I grew up on a ranch. I didn't speak English. I spoke
Excuse
German.
me, you skipped the part about you didn't speak English until 6. So what were you speaking?
Well, I spoke German. I grew up in a
Oh.
small German community, German Russian in North
Oh.
Dakota. and it was called Zeal, and it was 200 people.
What were there, like 10 of you?
There was 24 in my class. Of course, I was the valedictorian. I was one of the only ones in high school.
Congratulations.
College. And, but you know what? It's the best thing in my life because it gave me the work ethic that is unsurpassed. I mean, my parents, neither one finished, high school, but they were amazing role models for me in my life. And I just wish I could have had my kids grow up there.
Yeah.
I took them there every summer while they were growing up, while my parents were alive. And so that was the best. And I think, learning and coming from those roots is so important to understand and embrace. It really makes and molds who you are and who you'll become. And you should never forget that. Because if you forget that, you lose who you are.
No, I hear you. We're going to wrap it up. And if anybody did want to get a hold of you, your website is Dr. Rohrich. And Rohrich is spelled Rohrich. What's your Instagram handle? Is it also?
It's at Rod Rohrich.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Rod Rohrich. Okay.
yeah. And here it's, you can, on my website, you have my, there's my email and everything's on my website.
You're not hard to find. Yeah.
No, I'm available. And people can reach out to me and be happy to talk to them and discuss anything. They can DM me on my Instagram or any of my social media, TikTok, or my YouTube. Roy knows best.
And you have embraced marketing. Good for you. You are all over the place and you're in all the channels. And I think I wanted to recommend or commend you on your YouTube channel. I think we better all grow our YouTube channels because that's where it's heading. Instagram is eventually going to go down. You know how that happens? Like you jump the shark, as they say. Instagram's like way overdue for somebody to come in and conquer them. So I
agree. And I have I've only 11,000 or so followers on YouTube. But, the crazy thing about YouTube is that so many people look at it, but they don't subscribe. But,
right.
But that's good. I have lots of people come in and ask me about YouTube. So it's kind of fun too, because you can talk to people and help educate them, wide range of audience,
And they'll marathon it too. If they like your channel and they're really interested in something, they'll get a big chunk of you. And that's when they say, God, I feel like I know you. I have really, checked out your information.
And they say the same about you. I love yours too. You're very informative and you really help people and help plastic surgeons. So hopefully we gave them a kernel of wisdom or knowledge. So.
I came from the same school you did. You give to get, you serve, and then it comes back to you. I really believe that. And it's working for you very well. It's working for me okay, but for you really well.
Well, that's great. Well, it's been my honor and pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you would please review, subscribe, and share with your colleagues, that would be fantastic so we can grow the audience. And then if you've got any questions for me or feedback, please leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me at Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.